From the Watergate building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Amy Walter and John Mercurio.
Welcome to Hotline TV. I'm Conn Carroll.
And I'm Amy Walter.
Last night we were watching the Red Sox and Indians. We were watching the Republican-Florida debate.
Or were you watching a football game maybe? But anyway, for those of you who missed it, let's go through the clips buzzing around the Hotline newsroom and Hotline's blogometer. First up, Mitt Romney. All right, so the real question is, what was up with the hair? For the guy who we know has gotten a little bit of flack for having his too perfect and too slick, do you think that this was intentional? Did he go up there and do a little muss like this? Show he's like a regular guy, I don't care so much about my hair?
You know, I saw lots of reaction to his hair in the blogs, but I didn't really report it today because there was no consensus on what was going on with it. Some people really liked it, some people really hated it. Now, if their storyline had developed, I would have tried to cover it, but there was just a strong lack of consensus on what was the meaning of the hair.
So they were actually looking for substance other than hair?
They were looking for some, but none could be found.
None could be found behind hair. Okay, but what they did find, it seems though, was that Romney was on the defense.
Romney was definitely on the defensive.
The entire time.
He was attacked by Thompson right away. McCain later on pretty much out and out called him a liar. So he definitely had a kick me sign on his back the whole time. But on the plus side, he never mentioned lawyers, which is an improvement over his last performance.
Yeah, sometimes that's really all that you're going for, is
right.
Don't make the same mistakes as you did before. Although it is pretty clear that if you're Mitt Romney, almost the people you have to fear the most aren't the guys who are the closest to you in polls or in fundraising, like a Thompson or a Giuliani, but they're actually the guys who have nothing to lose here. Somebody like a McCain or a Huckabee trying to define themselves in contrast to you, and he's going to continue to find problems with that. All right, next up, John McCain comes out swinging, but also laughing.
A few days ago, Senator Clinton tried to spend $1 million on the Woodstock Concert Museum. Now, my friends, I wasn't there. I'm sure it was a cultural and pharmaceutical event. I was tied up at the time. But the fact is,
so that was pretty funny. Get it?
A
He was
cultural
tied up
and pharmaceutical event.
Yeah, but the tied up, you get it, because he was, yeah.
He was elsewhere.
He was apparently somewhere else. Look, I think this is, obviously McCain has decided, and there's a lot of talk about this earlier this summer as his campaign was stumbling, that he needed to go back to his bio, tell everybody who he is, where he came from. We heard about it at the voters confab this weekend as well, is that for conservatives, they do like getting back to the personal story. And this is something I think that has been able to give him some traction.
Well, you know, I think this entire town just can't wait to write the McCain comeback story. National Review
really?
Online has one by Cato Byrne this week saying Republicans should give him, or conservatives should give him a second look. And as far as this debate goes, you know, even before the debate happened, Bill Kristol said, you know, no one's really watching this thing. There's a baseball game going on at the same time. The only person that really didn't score anything from this debate is somebody who makes a YouTube type highlight moment, and this was clearly it.
Right.
Anyone who watched this debate that was a conservative loved this moment. It was the defining moment of the debate, and on that alone, McCain won last night.
Well, and I think the fact that he's coming out swinging so hard at Romney, again, another problem for a guy, Romney that is, in a place like New Hampshire, that he really needs to have a strong showing. Thus far in the polls, the only way, you know, what we've seen is that McCain's rise has come at the expense of Romney. So
speaking of one more thing of Romney, not only did Romney not mention lawyers last night, as a governor of Massachusetts, you'd think he'd mention the Boston Red Sox, but he did not.
Big opportunity missed. All right, now let's look at Rudy Giuliani.
Brought down crime more than anyone in this country, maybe in the history of this country. While I was mayor of New York City, I brought down taxes $9 billion, cut them 23 times. I balanced a budget that was perennially out of balance, removed $2.3 billion surpluses and deficits and replaced them with surpluses. So there were many. I drove pornography out of Times Square. There are many things about my governing of New York that, particularly in that environment, one of the most liberal cities in the country, I had more success than anyone ever thought I could have with a city council that was 45 Democrats and I think it was 6 Republicans, then it went down to 5 at one point.
You know what the most interesting thing about that clip, Amy, was? 0 9/11. In fact, in the entire debate, Giuliani did not mention 9/11 once.
This may be a record.
It is.
For the longest time.
At least
Period.
in the debate.
Yes. Second clip.
Fred was the single biggest obstacle to tort reform in the United States Senate. He stood with Democrats over and over again. He voted against $250,000 caps on damages, which they have in Texas. He voted against almost anything that would make our legal system fairer, loser pays rules, things that would prevent lawsuits like that $54 million lawsuit by the guy who lost his pants, you know? That cost that family $100,000 in legal fees. I think the man should have to pay the family for the $100,000 that he took from them in the abusive lawsuit. Fred Thompson, along with very few Republicans, blocked tort reform over and over and over again. That is not a conservative position.
All right. What we know was that Mitt Romney, obviously on the defensive a lot. So was Rudy. I mean, they came after him pretty hard. Fred Thompson explicitly first right out of the blocks. But you know what? If you're a Rudy Giuliani supporter, you say, you know, at least our guy hit back and hit back pretty hard going after Thompson, in particular on tort reform. On the law, he, I guess, was the only one that used lawyers.
There you go.
Maybe
Romney stayed away from it.
Romney stayed away from it. Maybe that's why. He just didn't want to have to use the word lawyer one more time.
Who does?
All right, well, let's move on to the straw poll winner from this weekend, Mike Huckabee.
You know, it's interesting, the most, I guess, wonderful reaction we've had in this entire room is when Hillary's name is mentioned. It gets louder than an Aerosmith concert. But I want to say this. You've asked, what's the difference? And no matter which one of us is on this stage, and look, I like to be funny. Let me be real honest with you. There's nothing funny about Hillary Clinton being president. Let me tell you why. If she's president, taxes go up, health care becomes the domain of the government, spending goes out of control, our military loses its morale, and I'm not sure we'll have the courage and the will and the resolve to fight the greatest threat this country's ever faced in Islamofascism.
Well, Huckabee may think there's nothing funny about Hillary Clinton, but the blogster found the comment funny enough to include. Hillary was definitely the star of last night's debate. Again, they all attacked her. Even more than they did Romney and Giuliani.
Well, and here's where, though, I think that Huckabee has gotten a real foothold with Republican base voters, which is he did go after her, but not as explicitly as Giuliani and Romney, who've made it really the centerpiece of their campaign. Huckabee even said, look, I'm happy to have you guys beat each other up, and I'm going to be standing out here, you know,
he's almost
away
taking
from
the high road.
He's able to take the high road because the other guys are getting into it, and he's able to talk to primary voters about the issues that they want to hear. Instead of just being an anti-Hillary, he can actually be the pro or the for candidate. And for primary voters, they would much rather have something to vote for rather than simply to have to vote against something. And so that's what he, I think, has been able to tap into. And so even when he takes on Hillary Clinton, it's much less direct than the way his opponents have.
Always a softer touch with Huckabee.
Finally, Fred Thompson.
Some people say you're lazy, sir. How do you deal with that?
No, that's okay. Let me answer that. I was a father at the age of 17 and a husband at the age of 17. I got started working in a factory. I borrowed and worked my way through. I was able to be an assistant U.S. attorney when I was 28, prosecuting most of the major federal crimes in Middle Tennessee, most of the major ones. Most important part is I'm the proud father of 5. 2 of them are under the age of 4. So let me add that to the list.
So Thompson definitely wanted to establish that he's not lazy, that he's been out on the campaign trail, and has had a very busy life. But Amy, I hear that you were somewhat taken aback by the way he approached it, at least at the end.
Well, I thought it was interesting that he not only wanted to show how not lazy he was by answering the question right out of the box, but even as Brit Hume was trying to wrap up the evening, he jumped in once again to talk about his young children. So he's been very active with his children.
Do you want to spell that out for us, Amy? It feels as though you're not making a full critique here, like you're holding back.
Yeah, I may be.
You may
I don't know
be.
if it's
okay.
An appropriate discussion, but I think the question is this lazy defense going to help? I don't know. He's been making the same claim, although not as vociferously as he did in the debate last night and not as
Well, the
concisely.
bloggers that I read today thought he hit it out of the park. So, so far, if he keeps on message with his resume, he may be able to turn this issue around.
Which is interesting, though, that he's still at the straw poll this weekend, didn't do particularly well.
That's true.
Still not getting very high marks in Florida, where he gave a speech. Everybody else gave a 20, 30-minute speech. His lasted for less than 5 minutes. So that's still going to plague him on the trail, though at least he has an answer to the question that may help in similar situations. That'll do it for today. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm Conn Carroll.
We'll see you next time on Hotline TV.